What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, shout out to Magnetic Discovery with the $12 donation via the PayPal. Much respect to him for showing love. Once again, to Too Raw for TV. And he has a video request. And he says, Too Raw, can you make a response to this guy's comment from one of your videos? These guys are getting desperate. They say MJ wasn't as good as you think. The Bulls won 55 games without MJ, exposing. You know what? I'll tell you what. I'm just going to go point by point and debunking all this crap. So he says, Churro, can you make a response to this guy's comment from your video? They are getting desperate. First, they say MJ wasn't as good as you think. The Bulls won 55 games without MJ, exposing MJ for the fraud that he is. The 2010 Cavs won 61 games with LeBron and won 19 when he left. See, this is the cherry picking and misleading stats that the Shannon Sharps and especially the Nick Wrongs of the world put out there. This is what they don't tell you about that stat. First of all, the main reason why the 2011 Cavs went from the year before 61 wins to 19 wins the next year, part of it was LeBron James leaving. Absolutely. You know, he is a great player. But do they tell you that I think that was the first time in history at that time that a reigning head coach of the year was fired? They fired Mike Brown. They fired most of the coaching staff. And a lot of the players that were on the 2010 team weren't on the 2011 team. And then some of the players that were left over, like Mo Williams and Anderson Varejao, were hurt. They missed a substantial part of the season, 50, 60-something games. So you basically had a skeleton crew roster, a bunch of young players, nothing like a championship team that was left. There was a lot of instability is what I'm trying to get at, right? With most of the championship caliber players the year before either gone or injured and missing most of the season. But that's what the Nick Wrongs of the world, the Shannon Sharps won't tell you. You contrast that to the 93 Bulls, right? And 94 Bulls. I'll make an argument that the 94 Bulls had a far better supporting cast than the 93 Bulls. People forget that the 93 Bulls had one of the weaker benches, along with the 98 Bulls, of any of those championship teams. You had guys like, who was on that roster? Darrell Walker, Trent Tucker. I don't think he was on the playoff roster, but the old boy that was with the Rockets for so many years, he was on that team. They were old. Like Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen did a lot of heavy lifting for the 93 Bulls. Jordan averaged like 32 points, and I think Pippen averaged like 20 points per game that year for the team. And in the playoffs, I think Pippen averaged like 21 or 22 points per game in 93. Jordan averaged like 35 points a game in the playoffs that year. So they did a lot of heavy lifting. As opposed to when you go to the next year, 93, 94, right? Jordan is gone. And that's reflected in the team's points per game and offensive rating. So although the Bulls' win total only went down by 2, their points per game went down from 105.2 to 98. Their offensive rating went from second in the NBA to 14th. They had to totally change their style of play. Far slower pace of play. And also, if I remember correctly, man, the Bulls won a lot of games. Like, I want to say like 15 of those 55 wins came in contests where they won by a margin of 5 points or fewer. So they were by no means a dominant 55-win team, which is reflected in the fact that that team was knocked out in the semifinals. But I also need to put out there that you started seeing the beginnings of at least the nucleus outside of Michael Jordan. You started seeing the beginnings of the nucleus of the mid to late 90s championship Bulls. Tony Kukoc arrives. Steve Kerr arrives. Pippen is peaking. You know what I mean? Bill Wennington arrives. Luke Longley arrives. So the team that we associate with the late 90s Bulls, that three-peat, those guys were starting to come. Now, Ron Harper came the very next year. And when you look at it, let's not underestimate the great coaching job that Phil Jackson put on that year. Phil Jackson should have won Coach of the Year in 94. 96 was just a makeup year, right? But look at it like this. If you take Michael Jordan off the 96 Bulls, right, the team that went 72-10, how many wins do you think that team would have had still? They were still a really good team without Michael Jordan. Isn't it fair to make the assumption that that team would have won 50-something games without Michael Jordan? So, in essence, the 94 Bulls were the 96 Bulls kind of without Michael Jordan. That's what they were. Still a great defensive team, but lacking that offensive firepower. So I've always I've always talked about that situation, and it's easily debunkable about, the 55 season proves this or that, whatever, right? Another distortion. LeBron's teams have only won 38% of the games without him, while Jordan's teams have won 50%. That's a lie. Because when they're including LeBron, they're including every team that he has left after he left those teams. They're including the Cavs between 2010 and 2014. They're including Miami since he left, and they're including Cleveland since he left, right? But I find it interesting that Miami was in the NBA Finals 6 years after he left the franchise. I find it interesting that Cleveland was in the playoffs 5 years after he left, and just 7 years after he left, they had a 64-win team. So that doesn't sound like a team like, say, the Chicago Bulls, who for many, many years after Michael Jordan left them permanently in 98, they struggled. And if it wasn't for the Derrick Rose era, shout out to Derrick Rose, outside of that, the Bulls have been horrible since Michael Jordan left. And also, they're only including the 93 and 94, the 93, 94, and 94, 95 seasons in this. If you look at the Chicago Bulls immediately after Jordan left in 98, from 98, 99 until the early mid-2000s, the Bulls were horrible. 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 So, it's funny. They don't like to include what happened when Jordan left in 98, 99, and when the roster got gutted, kind of akin to what happened in 2010, 2011 with the Cavs. The Bulls went from 62 wins to, what was their record? 13-37 in that 50-game win season. And I think the next year they won they went 17-65. So they don't talk about that because it doesn't suit their agenda. So what other fake arguments that they make? Jordan is overrated. Shaq, Jokic, Giannis, and Shea are better than him. Well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by they're better than him? What are you looking at? Are you looking at stats? Jordan averaged more points per game than Shaq. Jordan averaged more points per game than anybody in the history of the NBA. And you're trying to tell me this one season makes Shea better? Has Shea ever won Defensive Player of the Year? Has Shaq ever led the league in blocks? Has Jokic ever been on any all defensive teams? Giannis, people say all the time, Giannis has weaknesses offensively. He's not a good, really great outside shooter. I'm already hearing rumors about Giannis leaving Milwaukee. I don't think it's true. But if Giannis leaves Milwaukee to go to some super team, then I don't want to hear him being compared to Michael Jordan anymore. And Shea's story, his beginning, I wish him luck, but don't all of a sudden try to hop on Shea dick and make one great season the equivalency of Jordan's 5 MVP seasons. As I said before, has Shea ever led the league in steals? I don't think so. Has Shea ever won a Defensive Player of the Year award? I don't think so. Shea won back-to-back slam dunk contests? I don't think so. Has Shea ever won All-Star MVP 3 times? No. Is Shea a 2-time Olympic gold medalist? No. So what are we talking about here? I think Jordan was a 15-time or 14-time All-Star. So what are we talking about? Jordan was nothing but a ball hogger who played on 55-win teams. Jordan couldn't carry LeBron's jockstrap. He dominated him at 16 in pickup ball. Well, that already been debunked. That Jordan and LeBron dominated. Matter of fact, from what I recall, Jordan didn't even play against LeBron James. That was, once again, LeBron James lying. He got on the Kelsey Brothers podcast and told a big fat lie. You know what I'm saying? And the book that LeBron James had come out last year or early this year, I think it was last year, proved LeBron James was not telling the truth. LeBron James played okay, but he did not, quote unquote, dominate. And when he did play, he played after many of those all-star players, the NBA veterans, had played a couple of games. So, he had his moments. But, I recall, though, I can tell you something that did happen. Although Michael Jordan was not 16 years old, Michael Jordan was an amateur playing in exhibition games against the likes of established NBA stars and was lighting them up, including in one contest where in an exhibition game back in 1984, Michael Jordan scored 71 points. And Michael Jordan's exhibition team, a team in exhibition games, swept the NBA All-Stars something like 8-0. So how exactly is Michael Jordan overrated? I mean, these guys are just talking. And they're regurgitating tired, long since debunked, weak talking points. Oh, he's not better than this guy. He's a ball hog, and he played on this team. And, I'll tell you what sounds like a ball hog to me. A ball hog is a guy who is dropping 30 points a game, like LeBron James did a couple of years ago when he was playing with Russell Westbrook, using Russell Westbrook as a lightning rod for criticism when the team wasn't winning, as LeBron was selfishly yakking up shots to chase a scoring record. And the stats proved that 91.5% of his points came in garbage time, meaning that the team was either up or down by 15 points. So much of his points really had no impact. Plus, LeBron James finished this year with a negative plus minus. Once again, proving that if anything, anybody's a shot a ball hog, it's LeBron James. Even if Michael Jordan did lead the league in shot attempts, number one, he's a guard. Number two, he was playing when the league was truly a big man's game still. 1986, 87, the year he averaged 37.1 points per game, is still statistically the tallest year in the history of the NBA. And even if he was taking a lot of shots, which you would expect a guard who's of diminutive size compared to a power forward or a center, he was still making a really good percentage of his shot attempts. For the most part, in his prime years, he was shooting between 48 to 54% from the floor in any given season. So what the fuck are we talking about here? Anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Tell me what you guys think.